Welcome to the President's Desk, simulcast on 96.9 FM KGPC and Peralta Television, where Laney College President Dr. Rudy Besikoff speaks with community members, colleagues, and student leaders. This program is supported by Technical Director Felicia Bridges, who co-hosts along with Laney College President Dr. Rudy Besikoff.
Pull up a chair and join me and Felicia at the President's Desk today. Theater is the topic on the table as we chat with Laney College professor Michael Torres, welcoming him back for a second appearance, along with student thespians Michael Brown and Gigi Perez. In and around our guests, we'll be checking in on our partners of Laney as always and have some special information about donating to the college available to you, our listeners. As always, the show airs at 2 a.m. and 2 p.m. on 96.9 FM right here in Oakland, KGPC, and online at kgpc969.org. It can also be seen Sundays on television from 1 to 2 p.m. on Peralta TV. Can't catch us? No problem. All the episodes are available anytime on demand at kgpc969.org, along with other great Peralta programming such as the Merit Hour. And as always, we can be heard on Apple Podcasts and iHeartRadio. Felicia, I actually listened to a previous episode on iHeart last week. It was kind of a good experience.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I have yet to hear it on iHeartRadio, and I was talking to someone about that today. So we're on iHeartRadio, so I need to check it out.
That's awesome. Want to get in touch with the show? Email us anytime at laneypodcast@peralta.edu, and you can like us on Facebook at Laney College President's Desk Podcast or follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Laney Podcast. Also, we will be updating it. You're going to find select interviews and content from the show. In fact, Professor Torres, you got on my greatest hits rotation on the YouTube channel. All you have to do is subscribe to the Laney College President's Desk. I'm Rudy Besikoff, president of Laney College, a pillar that has been serving our greater Oakland community since 1927 and has been known as Laney for more than 65 years, and where once again, spring semester is free. Great teams in my office is what it's all about. In addition to my co-host, Felicia, I want to recognize Elena Sanchez, who now assists in booking guests for the show, as well as Raya Zion in Employment Services, who serves as a show contributor. But getting things kicked off today, of course, is Felicia Bridges. Felicia, how are you?
Rudy, I'm doing really good. How are you?
Not too bad. I can't complain, but sometimes I still do,
Right.
But, I got to ask you, if I check in with you and just ask about how you engage with the fine arts, what's something you do? Do you like to go listen to an orchestra performance? What's kind of your wheelhouse?
Gosh, there's a lot. I love, but all free. So I love the free museum dates. So I go to the museum a lot. And I also love the opera, but I only go when they're out. But because I'll embarrass myself when I'm in the theater watching opera, I have a tendency to cry. I'm so moved by it.
Okay. Well, I got to ask. So I want to welcome in our two-time guest now, Professor Michael Torres from the theater department. And Michael, I know we're going to be talking a lot about theater today, but I'll go ahead and start with the same question. For you, when it's fine arts, not theater, what do you like to do?
Well, everything's so much about theater. It's fine arts. When I get a chance, I like to go to the museums. I enjoy the Oakland Museum and, Children's Museum. I think there's one here in Oakland and one in Berkeley, but I don't have a lot of extra time. Usually it's when I get extra time, it's I go hiking and things like that.
Kind of get away from it all.
With my wife, who used to teach here.
I actually want to take this opportunity to give a shout out to Oakland Museum of California Director Lori Fogarty, because with a partnership with Laney College,
that's right,
current students can go to the museum and see it for free. And it's an amazing thing that happens. So I also want to turn to our student guests. Gigi, how about you? When you're not focused in on theater, but want to do something in the fine arts and take it in, what do you like to do?
Well, my main focus has always been musical theater, and I guess I kind of like to explore fine arts in my writing
Okay.
a lot of the time. But same with Michael. Like I am pretty busy, and so I dedicate a lot of my time to just theater and musical theater.
You do concerts?
I do like to go to concerts.
Oh, okay.
That's one of my favorite things to do.
I actually wanted to ask you, does your writing play into what you do in the theater?
Yes,
How?
actually. So given right now with our show that we're putting on, I am one of the writers for one of the scripts
Wow.
that we did. So, and that's the first time that I've ever really written in a show.
What's it been like?
Stressful, very stressful, but absolutely like super fun. It's been really nice to be able to let my creativity flow in ways that I have never tried before. And it's really given me confidence in my writing that I haven't had before.
If you feel like you're stuck, what do you do to kind of get over the writer's block?
I stop. I don't try and push myself to write. I just close my notebook, close my computer, and walk away from it for maybe an hour.
Felicia, somebody should have told me to do that when I was in graduate school. Just stop writing. I like that. That's a good way to get over it.
I would agree.
Yeah. Michael Brown, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here and glad to have you studying with us here at Laney College. How about you for the fine arts? When it's not theater, what do you like to do?
I don't really do a lot because I tend to get home and recharge my batteries because it's only so limited how much you can do. I guess the closest thing I really do to that sort of fine arts thing is like probably just witness nature
Okay.
on like hikes.
All right.
I don't
so
do it super frequently, but I try to do it when I get the opportunity to.
All right. So we have Felicia. We have two theater people here who have told us step away. That's what I'm hearing. Okay. All right. So Professor Torres,
good.
you got a show coming up. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. It started with a conversation with the stage production supervisor. His daughter's named Lucia. And
That would be Alejandro Acosta, wouldn't it?
That would be Alejandro Acosta. Yeah,
Welcome. And we're looking forward to welcoming him to a future broadcast. And I'm going to ask you some things about technical theater, but tell us more about the show. Go ahead.
Well, his daughter came in because he had to come in for, quickly, I think, to go take care of something. So his daughter is with him. So she would usually sits at the lip of the stage close to me. And I was directing the show last year, and then we took a break, and then I just looked at her, and I was like, hey, what are your favorite stories? Because she's so great. I love Lucia. And she's like, oh, yes. And she's like, I like the Three Little Pigs. I like Little Red Riding Hood. And I like Three Billy Goats Gruff. And I'm like, that's fantastic. So then they left, and then I talked to the team, the ensemble, and I went, I think, to honor little Lucia, I kind of want to bring the plays that she likes to life. So we're doing that, but as we have been moving forward in rehearsal, they're not going to be the stories that she like. We've taken the stories and we've made them our own. So we're doing them. We'll start off with Little Red Riding Hood, but it's not the Little Red Riding Hood that's in the Little Golden Book, and it's not the story of the Three Little Pigs the way it was told. Nothing's going to sound like the Little Golden Books.
How will it be different?
Well, it's going mostly. I think it's going through a POC lens and a femme-centric lens.
Okay.
So
POC?
person of color lens,
Okay.
and then a femme-centric lens, and so it's a very interesting take on characters like the wolf who are brown, and his features get described and stuff, and wolves don't walk on two legs, and who are we talking about? And so we started to work on a way of showing how maybe the wolf is unjustly criticized. That why would we be angry with a wolf wanting to eat a pig when we eat pigs and a wolf would naturally eat a pig? So why is that? Why these particular characters and stuff? So and who are they really representing?
It sounds like, and Gigi, since you're writing this, I think this is a great question to to ask as they say, the room here, the conversations that lead up to that lens of writing. What's that like?
It's definitely educational. And I think that it's a good conversation to have, especially as a writer. And obviously, like, I don't identify as a person of color, and so I will never be able to understand struggles that a lot of people of color go through. But I am a firm believer that we all need to be educated, and we all need to have some understanding in our minds and in our hearts. So yeah, it's been really educational for me.
So you literally find yourself in the role of student as you're gearing up to write.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
That's a big learning experience. She's also put in what we would call like a Rashomon in the court. It's taking place in fairy tale court, and so you look at the wolf story from the wolf's perspective, and then you look at it from Red's perspective, and you get two very different interpretations of the same story. And that leads to interesting conversations. And I think when you go see a play, one of the desires that you hope people will walk away with will be, what do you think? And are you walking away talking about it, or are you quickly going to, like, did I do the laundry, or I'm hungry, or something like that? But if you're walking away in conversation about that was interesting about the take of the wolf, I never thought about that with the wolf. I just always assumed the wolf was guilty.
I've been privileged enough to attend some of your performances that you've put on with our student thespians, and one of the things I've really appreciated is how you, most of the time I believe it's before the performance, speak to the audience and engage them a little bit. How do you see that playing out this time?
I'm not sure, because I never know what I'm going to say until I try to stay just present. So I never really plan what I'm going to say in front of the audience. I do take a lot of pride in talking about the hard work that the students put into the show, and I'm always impressed with people who are 18, 19, 20 years old and what they're able to do. Because I remember myself when I was 18, 19, 20, and I was not doing what they're doing. I was preoccupied with so many other things.
Sure.
They're focused. Even they may not know it, but they are very political. They are looking to right a lot of wrongs, and artistically, they've discovered how to do it without getting arrested. They've discovered how to, like, you can't arrest me for expressing my opinion through a piece of
right. So, Mr. Brown, what's your role been so far with the play?
Coming in, I originally considered trying to do production side of things, but as time kind of passed, I changed my mind and just kind of went back to what I came into Torres' presence for, which was acting. And I'm going to be acting in this coming play, too.
What appeals to you about acting?
That's kind of a tricky question. I don't know how to describe it, but I feel kind of called to it, and it's hard, but it's enjoyable.
Is it the idea of taking on the role of a character and kind of engrossing yourself in it? Is that where it starts? Or tell us a little more about it.
That's definitely part of it.
What else is there to it?
I think there's also just the matter of, like, there's also the matter of just, like, not only being your own character, but how it would interact with other characters and just being in the moment. And then eventually that turns into doing all that in front of a bunch of people.
Oh, okay.
And there's that transition from you being you, and then you become that character in the moment.
But it sounds like the way you're describing it is not what this other character would be like, but how that other character would interact with other characters in the play. Is that fair to say?
It's a mix of both.
Okay. Wow. It's fascinating. So, Professor Torres, I remember a year ago, attended the performance, and it seemed, and I remember when we talked, I used the word dystopia kind of to talk about the setting of the play and everything. This seems to be more in the realm of the fantastical. I don't know if that's a good way to say it. In terms of preparing a play like that, what's the difference between a dystopian setting and something that's more along the lines of fantasy and the fantastic?
Let's going into the world. Each world is different, and this is kind of part of like the whole theater magic thing, is that we've got that wonderful stage, and a wonderful stage is sort of like a fantastic voyage. It's like a vessel. Even the ropes are designed after vessels. The word playwright is designed after the word shipwright and wheelwright.
Sure.
And so there's so much about it's so much about, you've got the deck and you've got the curtains that resemble sails, and so there's so much about transporting. It's almost Star Trekian in a way that you kind of one time we land in this dystopian world, and then we take off again.
Wow.
And then we land now in the world of something of a fantastical world. So it's really, for me, it's been addictive, and I think for students too that fell in love with it early and are falling in love with it now. It's this fantastic journey we get where we get to live all these different lives, and we get the benefit of having to come out of the lives. We don't have to pay the price.
Great conversation around theater as you tuned into the President's Desk here on 96.9 FM, KGPC, also heard at kgpc969.org.
I hear actors talk about getting into character and channeling and also just taking on the persona of whatever character that they're portraying. What do you find is the best method, or what are some of the methods that actors can use to throw themselves into a character?
Fantastic question.
Well, at the college, it's 2-year college, what we're talking about would probably, for a well-trained actor, would take about 8 to 9 years to master, because you would be studying that in your undergrad, and then you go to a good graduate school and you can study for another 3 years, to do what you're saying. So it's like you go to school, you get trained by many different masters, and then you create your own mastery. So mine is I went to a top 2% graduate school, University of California in San Diego, for acting. It's top 2% for the country. And they brought great teachers from all over the world to come into my room, which was 409 small. I still remember it, because all these great people would come in, and it's what sticks. It's like, I liked what this teacher said about that. I like what this teacher said about this. And then, they sent me to Europe. They sent me to Japan. And then I played in Chicago for a while to, learn all these great masters. And I came up with my own. But here at the college, what we mostly focus on, because it's 2 years, and I want to make sure they got a good, strong foundation. So we focus on what would be structural analysis of the words, which kind of takes them to that place almost immediately.
Felicia, I love your question because it kind of creates a timeline opportunity here, because we just got the answer from the accomplished actor. And Michael, we'll be talking about your time as an actor during this hour as well. But I want to turn to our up-and-coming theater folks. Gigi, how do you get into character?
I like to do my research first when I get a role, and I like to make it my own. So if it's something like fantasy-wise, kind of like how we're doing right now in our upcoming show, I'll watch old Disney Channel movies and old fairy tale things and read some books and kind of pick and choose what I like from those characters, and then still be able to make it my own. And then let's say day of show, we're getting ready to go on stage, I like to take a second to myself and kind of do that kind of typical theater kind of shake it all out, get ready, and okay. I'm no longer me, I'm the character that I'm playing.
Shake it all out.
Shake it all out.
Michael, how about you? How do you get into character, sir?
I'm in a somewhat similar boat to Gigi, albeit not quite the exact same extent when it comes to the research aspect, but I think I spend a bit of that time that I'm not doing that, more so just focusing on how how I say what I say, and focusing on enunciation and just making sure I sound clear and concise in character.
You actually take it down to the sentence word level when you're doing it.
That's what I try to do. It doesn't always happen like that, but it's the effort.
Okay, so obviously critical then is memorizing your lines. What's a trick to doing that?
If I'm being honest, I have no idea how I'd managed to do it last semester when I performed. It just kind of happened, and I don't really know what to say. Because that's something I'm still trying to figure out a clear answer to. I just kind of did it and practice, and you'll get it down eventually if you're practicing the right way.
Well, to our listeners, your professor and your fellow student were kind of nodding their head north and south as you were giving your answer, so it probably sounds like it's close to the right one. Yeah, that's great. So, Professor Torres, you're not just a professor. You're someone who is you're an actor. Could you tell our listeners a little bit about your career as a thespian?
Well, I've been a professional actor since 1986, and I've acted in about 30 of the states here, and through tours, and then in Europe for a while, so Spain, France, Germany. And just one show after the other. I trained at San Francisco State, and then I got discovered while I was at San Francisco State by some Latino theater artists who are now part of Culture Clash, which is the #1 Latino theater comedy troupe in the United States. A couple of the members, spotted me, and I got put into a teatro, which is Spanish for theater. I didn't even know they existed, because primarily when I first started school, we trained all European, and I didn't know about Black theater. I didn't know about Latino theater. I didn't know about Asian theater. All I knew was European theater. So when I met these guys, I didn't know that this existed. I thought it was a new thing. And then I quickly learned, it's as old as any other theater that's been out there, and I got fascinated with it. And so I was in a teatro, and we would do plays. The first one that went on a national tour for like 6 months was, we would improvise the script, and you got 3 writers, and then they would put everything together, and then we'd like edit it down, and then off we would go on this tour. And I was surprised, like, wow, people are buying this. So that just led me on, what I was saying earlier, just this fantastic journey. It's from there I went into, I found my way into other companies like the Eureka Theater, where Angels in America. I was in that year when Angels in America started. Our very first stage production supervisor, Jim Cave, who I brought on board, he was the original lighting designer for Angels in America. So I was, I wasn't in Angels America, but I was in a show that was in proximity. I can't remember if it was before or after. And from there to the Magic Theater, and then from the Magic Theater to graduate school, and the graduate school to Cow Shakes, and then I just kept on becoming an artist in residence, and for various companies for years, and then eventually I said, I think a brother of mine, we were at Berkeley Rep, and we're looking at audiences, and we just kind of went, this doesn't look like my neighborhood, and does it look like your neighborhood? And we were like, no. But we were all proud. We're all proud mainstream actors, but it's like, man, but we're not playing to our own people. So to make a long story short, we said, want to make a company? And we did. And it was, we co-founded it in San Francisco, and it went huge. It's called Camposanto, and went huge. We were really surprised by the original, people wanted to represent us. We had like great publicity going on. We were on every radio station that there was in the Bay, just because we were 3 Latino guys to come together and put this company together. People thought we were going to be the next El Teatro Campesino, and I was like, well, why? And they're like, well, you guys are Latino. And I'm like, well, it's San Francisco. Not everybody here is, Latino. So I'm kind of surprised by the question. It's like, Latinos got world perspective also. So they were like, oh, yeah. It's like, well, I'm surprised we have to have this conversation, but we did. And so in order to break stereotypes, we made sure that we produced shows from all different, just everybody.
If I were to kind of give you this magical power where every performance you've ever done is in an iTunes file or something like that, and you could show me what you consider to be your, I'll just say the word greatest performance, which one would it be?
Oh, the standard answer for that is, the next one.
Okay.
Is like, and I'm about to be cast. Oh, can I talk about it? Okay, I'm supposed to keep.
All right, we don't have to break news here on the President's Desk.
I'm
Don't
not
worry.
supposed to talk about it yet, but it'll happen in Marin, and I'm a member of the Marin Shakespeare Company now. It's under new, and it's the artistic director there now is John Tracy, and he's sort of drafted 9 of us, nine theater artists from around the Bay Area to be sort of a cohort over there, and we work artistically. We work in so far it's still developing. It's brand new, like artistic decisions and stuff. Working with the artistic director, almost like an advisory, and then we get cast too, right along with people from the community. So it's a pretty cool gig. I
Up
can't
and
talk
coming.
about.
Okay, well, we won't. I don't want to get you in trouble here on the President's Desk, but
they gagged me.
Yeah.
They're like, you got a gag order until we tell you you can talk about it.
I'd like to turn to our student Mike. What's your most memorable performance that you've had so far to date?
I haven't really done that many, but out of the few I've done, really, it's just the most recent one, and then I hope that the next one I do tops that.
Okay. What was the most recent one you did?
I kind of talked about it a bit earlier, but last semester I was in I performed for Professor Torres. We performed a play called "Spending the End of the World" on
That's
OK
right.
Cupid
I saw
by
it.
Jeffrey Lowe.
That's right.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Gigi, how about you?
Well, this is my first year at Laney, so I haven't had past experience here yet. But from past experience, it's always hard to pick like your favorite because they're all great. Everything that I think that I've done, that the whole production is just amazing. But I have done a lot of short films and on-screen things, and the most recent one that I did was with MMTB, which is Movies Made Throughout the Bay, and we had a Make a Film in a Day challenge, and it was great. It was super fun. I've never done a challenge like that before, but we did it, and it was super fun. So I think that's my most favorite.
So you can't mention anything like that and me not ask. What was the film about?
So the film was called Happy Accidents, and it was about these scientists who are trying to meet a deadline for a I don't want to say drug because that's not the right word for it, but like a substance of some sort, and they are trying to compete with another company to get it like in on time. And it was a lot of fun. I just made it sound kind of boring, but I promise it wasn't. Like, it was a lot of scenes of like pretending to be in an office or pretending to be in a lab and then going to a bar and things like that. But the twist was everything that was filmed in the short film was filmed in one setting.
One of my favorite shows, just from the 90s was Seinfeld. And then from that, the producer, Larry David, he's now airing his 12th season of Curb Your Enthusiasm. The thing about that show that is amazing and stands apart from Seinfeld is there was no script, or there is no script. He basically just tells Ted Danson and the other actors, this is what's happening, act it out. In this kind of theater in a day experience, were you doing the same thing?
In a sense, yes. So we weren't able to read the script until day of. So we get there, we check in, then you get the script, and you have about 30 to an hour to learn everything. And I was the lead in that, so I had the most lines, I had everything. So 30 to an hour isn't that much time to figure out like a 30-minute short film. So I did a lot of improv with that, and the director told me, she was like, you go crazy with it, you do whatever you want, you know. And then as time went on, we were getting closer to ending our film day, and so towards the end we did have to do a lot of improv, which was fun.
Wow, that sounds like great. Felicia, the show is just flying by. And it is yet another opportunity for me to remind our listeners that you're tuned in to the President's Desk right here at KGPC 969 FM and also heard at kgpc969.org. So we're gonna step away for a minute. I'm gonna do a little bit of business here, but can you all stick around for a little longer just to chat? I'm having a good old time here. So
It's fun.
Anyway, well, as we transition at this point in the show, I'd like to start by just reminding our listeners about our Partners of Laney feature, and really want to put the spotlight on an event that happened on March 6th at the Laney campus, which was kind of nicknamed Electric Ladyland. It was our Women in Trades panel discussion on careers in electricity. And we were so pleased to have the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, to also have East Bay Municipal, and then also, on top of all that, to have BART come out and really participate in this event, put on by Raya Zion as always, and it just was an incredibly engaging event that's not only reflective of the wonderful students and faculty and staff we have, but just the amazing industry partners that we've got. I'd also like to say, as we transition at this point in the show, that Laney College, as well as the Peralta Community College District, always accepts scholarship donations really to help amazing students like Gigi and Mike, who've come to the show today, just progress in their studies. And also within my office, for those moments when students kind of hit a bump in the road, maybe they have a flat tire that puts them behind on their expenses or something like that, we actually offer a one-time emergency scholarship for students up to $500. If you have hit that bump in the road this semester, students, feel free to reach out to my office. You can email me at rbesikof@peralta.edu or give us a call at 510-464-3219, and either I or Elena Sanchez in my office will be glad to talk to you, not only about just the scholarship itself, but the process and the application. Turning to our employees as well as our valued community members, of course, we always appreciate donations to the President's College Emergency Fund or any other scholarship that you have in mind. If you are interested, and often a gift is something that's very personal, I really invite you to reach out and talk to me about it if you have any questions. I just provided my email, but I'll also give my phone number, 510-464-3236. You can reach out, just ask me any questions you have. And often it's something where we match up your interests as a potential donor to things going on at the college where you can provide support to our students. Also, to our employees, it is possible to donate through a monthly payroll deduction. That is a pre-tax deduction. And all of these things go to our Peralta Colleges Foundation, which is a nonprofit 501c3, meaning that your contribution, in addition to being pre-tax, is also tax deductible. If you're interested, you can reach out to Ricky White or Margie Platero in the Peralta Colleges Foundation, and just reach out to them at PCF, Peralta Colleges Foundation, at peralta.edu. All right. Well, Gigi, you mentioned improv, and I don't know if this is exactly improv, but we're going to try something here. I know we have a professor of theater here, and we also have two students of the theater who clearly have seen their way around a play and a performance before. So, Professor Torres, one of my favorite plays is Hamlet, specifically Act 3, Scene 1. Hamlet's father is murdered, and the ghost of Hamlet's father comes back and essentially charges Hamlet with avenging his death, and then disappears, and Hamlet is alone and says this: "To be or not to be, that is the question, whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them. To die, to sleep no more, and by a sleep we say, end the heartache and the thousand natural shocks that flesh is heir to. 'Tis a consummation devoutly to be wished."
Hey.
Okay, so
Nice.
did that as a freshman in college way back in fall of 1986. That's the last time I did it. It was an in-class assignment, reading it out loud. I am a theater student. You've given an assignment to read something. What would you tell me? And don't hold back.
Well, it's one to a student. We've got to be one. I did this play last summer.
What was your character?
I played two characters. I was both brothers. I was Claudius and King Hamlet, the ghost. And the play did really well. Critics all across the board, anyway, and blah blah blah. It did very, very well. And Chronicle, Little Man Out of the Sea, clapping, and so was really kind of proud of that production. But I wasn't Hamlet, but I was the ghost. And I gave Hamlet a pretty bad time.
Well, so here's your chance to give another Hamlet a bad time if you'd like. What'd you think? If I were in your class as a student and I gave that reading, what would you tell me?
I would say that the reading was pretty good, and that what you're doing is you're making good sense making out of it. So the sense making is good, and that's where we have to start off with the sense making. You were not dropping your line endings, which is pretty typical with young actors, where you kind of, and it's very much a Bay Area thing. It's kind of how we talk. We talk mumble mouth, and we drop our line endings. But in the theater, we can't do that. Another thing we do in the Bay Area, right, that we can't do in the theater is like not avoid eye contact. So, you and Bart, you're looking at somebody and they're just like, what you want,
Right.
So there's an element of that to overcome when you're on stage. Okay.
Right. So it's something that a lot of students have to get used to, which is like, you need to look them in the eye.
Okay.
When you talk to them.
All right. And I was clearly staring at the mic. So yeah,
that's okay. We're like, doing the radio thing, but the sense making is just, the words were making sense. You weren't dropping your line endings, which is really, really important. Because each line is sending a message. In this case, it's a soliloquy, so you're sending a message out, to the universe, to himself, whoever he's talking to. Because at this speech, the actor can make a choice. I could be talking directly to the audience. I could be treating the audience as if it's the universe. I could be talking to the audience as if it's different parts of my brain, and it's an internal conversation.
Okay.
So I think that was all great. But technically speaking, on the structural end of the language, good sense making, not dropping the line endings, and hitting the operative words appropriately. Now it's like it's about the emotional end of it, because we spend all this time working with the words, and I'm really big on structural analysis and understanding what the words mean, so that you don't have to think about them anymore. Because what theater really is all about is it's about the thoughts and the emotions that are carried on these words. And that's why you could watch 100 different productions of Hamlet, and you're going to get 100 different versions of the character. But what you want to learn to do as an actor, to be your own artist, is to be honest.
Okay.
And that's like to be honest with yourself. And, if you ever thought about doing away with yourself, suicide, and if you've ever had these thoughts, you don't have to talk about them in class, of course, and you don't have to share these with me. But what I need is for you to honestly put that into the language.
Okay.
Let me, as if you were in your room contemplating this action, what have you honestly done? And then have is like past tense. How do you bring that into the into the now, to where you're in that state, you need to think about the circumstances that happened before, like the ghost of your father, and then the ghost of your father telling you that he was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ghost, I always thought this was strange, that the ghost doesn't come back and go, "Oh, Hamlet, I miss you. I love you, my son." This ghost comes back and says, "My brother did this. You need to go kill him."
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Which,
It's quite a charge, yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
it's like, wow.
So I'd like to turn to our two students who are active in acting. What would you tell me if, as a fellow thespian, well, I don't know if I can call myself that, but what would you tell me just having heard what I delivered?
Well, one of the things that I've picked up so far from taking Michael's class, we just finished doing a monologue test, and we've really been focusing kind of like on punctuation in a monologue and kind of like paying attention to where your periods are, where your like your commas, everything, where everything is. And that's like a good moment to breathe. So don't rush. Don't, try and do it all in one breath. Read it and look at the things that are there.
I did see Felicia start to reach for some oxygen as I was kind of in the middle of that. So that rings true.
Well, it definitely, Michael has helped in that aspect, because I think a lot of the time as a performer or an actor, we kind of see a monologue and we want to get through it as fast as possible. And by doing that, you kind of lose engagement with either your scene partner or the audience. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Mike, what would you say to that reading of Act 3, Scene 1?
I'm having pretty similar thoughts as Gigi in that regard, but I'd also like to add that breathing is pretty important, because you also have to know like when's a good time to breathe without creating too much of a gap. Like in a similar note to the punctuation focusing Gigi talked about, that eventually turns into closing gaps so that there isn't much empty air, because Professor Torres has talked about how if there's like too much empty air or pausing, then the audience just loses focus, and you don't want that happening.
Okay.
You want the audience to stay focused on what you're doing.
Okay, so question about focus there. All right. Felicia, I'm going to go ahead and share with you the feedback I got in 1986.
Okay.
And it does not seem that I made much progress, because rushed and monotone were the two things that I got from my professor, who mercifully gave me a B for that. So
Wow.
anyway,
Okay.
all right. So you've heard kind of the amateur hour aspect of this. I am going to turn to our accomplished actor and ask him to read it.
Okay, this is off the cuff. So and to honor what the students said, it's like, yes, it's like we things like the punctuation they're talking about is that we take breaths on the commas and anything that really ends a sentence or extends a sentence, like a colon, semicolon, and then an ellipses, and playing the ellipses as like a disintegrating thought or a searching thought, and which then does slow it. It gives the sensation of it kind of slowing down, and the feeling of now.
Okay.
Yeah, because he's rather thinking. These are kind of deep thoughts and rather kind of scary thoughts. But whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them, to die, to sleep no more, and by a sleep to say we end the heartache and the thousand natural shocks that flesh is heir to. 'Tis a consummation devoutly to be wished. That was kind of...
Whoa, that was amazing.
Rudy, don't give up your day job, okay?
Yeah.
Don't give it
Oh,
up. That was amazing.
it seemed like at moments, well, first of all, the pauses were amazing. I mean, just like, I found myself as a consumer of those few lines just leaning forward, first of all. And then, again, kind of the critique I heard was monotone once upon a time. But the way that as you were inflecting, your voice would just lower and almost go to I almost want to say an octave that I didn't know you had. I mean, just went down. I don't know. Students, what was as you heard your professor, what was some of your take?
Well, we've heard him recite some monologues here and there through class, so it's not, I wouldn't say anything new. I still get very, I'm impressed by my professor very much, and I think that he has a lot to offer us theater students, and I just think he's awesome. Like, I really genuinely think that he's a great teacher and a great person.
Same here. Mike, what was your take just listening to your professor?
Yeah, I think it's really cool how not only is he a teacher, but he's still out and about doing gigs once in a while, as he's talked about before.
Yeah. No, it's
like there's the saying that teachers teach because they can't do, but he doesn't teach, or he doesn't just teach, he also does.
And that's I always have, I strongly question, that, and that's a truth. That's like said a lot, but I think at our college we got a lot of people who actually do what they teach, and I think that kind of sets us apart from maybe other institutions. It's like we're just not academics. We're people that like know how to take it and work with it.
On a previous show, we had Matthew Wolpe, a professor of carpentry, come in, and in addition to teaching his classes, he's so active with building the tiny homes through the Tiny Homes Project. So that is another case in point. And also at this point, this is going so fast today, Felicia.
Going very quickly.
I'll just go ahead and say one more time that we're so pleased to be hosting you, our listeners, at the President's Desk right here at 96.9 FM in Oakland, KGPC. Also, listen anytime at kgpc969.org. Professor Torres, obviously you were very engaged as an actor. What got you into teaching?
I was an adjunct for 8 years. My company, we formed the company, so we weren't working in the houses anymore, the theaters, because we formed our own company, and it was, at the beginning, it's pretty grassroots. So you suffer your salary. So I had an MFA. So I was like, I think I'll cash this in. And then, oddly enough, there was an actor that was in our company early on that taught at Chabot. And I was like kind of concerned about it because I had 3 kids. And I was like, man, I made a big sacrifice because I went from like making so many dollars to almost $0 to form my company. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I mentioned it to the ensemble. It's like, I got this MFA. And she came up to me and she was like, I teach at Chabot, and let me see what I can do. And then I got a phone call from the chair over at Chabot, and then I got hired over the phone, which I was like, that's how you do it. And then I just, I stayed there. I taught there. I think I adjuncted for about 8 years. And after Chabot, we added on San Francisco State, Santa Rosa College, and Los Medanos. So I was teaching at them and kind of like driving all over the Bay while working in my at my theater in San Francisco, and learning a lot about teaching from fellow adjuncts and stuff, because I didn't know. I was trained to be an actor. I wasn't trained in teaching. So I was learning about teaching as I was adjuncting. And then I was like in my 40s, and I thought I just had felt like I just felt another thing in me, another compulsion, and I didn't know what it was. And then this presented itself, and then the school, and the Razorbacks, Arkansas.
Okay.
But I was like, then I got to live in Arkansas. So I was like, oh no. And then some liberal arts college in New York, and another one in Canada. And then I found this, and the Chronicle for Higher Learning, is that what it's called?
Yeah, Chronicle of Higher Education. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I found this, and I was like, I wouldn't even have to move. And my peeps are there, and when my dad came here from Hawaii, this is where they came. This is where they landed. So my dad first, lived on Castro Street.
Felicia, Michael mentioned getting his first job over the phone, literally, for his interview. I can actually top that story.
Oh,
As
boy.
a dean, I interviewed someone to teach Spanish. This was back in 2011. And at the conclusion of the interview, I handed the person I was interviewing the textbook, walked them to the classroom, and said, have a good class.
Wow.
that was-
wow. I'd have died.
and turned out to be one of our best faculty members.
Wow.
I remember that.
Wow.
So
You
I
have
know
a good gut then.
Yeah, I know you had a question for Michael.
I do have a question.
Can I just before it's
Sure.
my wife Jackie Graves, who was an English professor
Right.
here, chair of the English department for a minute, and then a dean here for a bit. She was in the original, the first Teach for America. So she was part of the launching of that. She's a fantastic teacher. So when I came on at Laney, I had the 8 years experience of like teaching there, but teaching full time, I didn't have my head wrapped around. So she just retired, but like for the last 19 years, we've been talking about it. And so I feel like I've been tutored by the greatest teacher.
No, and she's given so much to Laney, and I always, whenever you hear about her, so appreciate her service. And by the way, Felicia, just on the story I told, a lot of the HR work had already been done on the front end. So I know I've got colleagues up and down the state who probably just fell out of their chair hearing my story. So I wanted to add that bit of context. But sorry, back to you, Felicia.
Well, I wanted to ask, you've had a lot of students who studied acting and theater, and not everyone goes on to be theater actors or in television or or movies or what have you. But I found that those acting skills translate well in other areas.
Oh, sure.
What areas does the acting skill translate to?
Everything. Well, a lot of our students, we've got quite a few students that are out there working now. In fact, at Shotgun, I'll talk first about very quickly in the most immediate. We've got actors already working, like at the Shotgun, Ashby State, Shotgun Players. We just got done seeing Sundiata, who is a great actress here, and moved on, and we saw her in a play over at Shotgun. We're going to go see Midsummer Night's Dream, which has Ro in it. Ro came from our program. Ro is in Blind Spotting on a couple of Netflix series. I saw on Grey's Anatomy a couple of years ago. Qualima was on that. And I was like, that looks like Qualima. And I can't tell. She's in a coma. But when she came out of the coma and started speaking, I was like, oh, my God, it's Qualima. So, we stay in contact with the students.
Fantastic.
So that, and then Storm, who is a tutor for the department, Storm is going to be in what's called Best Available, another play that's going to be happening at Shotgun. And person who is a co-assistant artistic director or associate artistic director at Shotgun Players is Lee Rondon Davis, and Lee came out of our program too. So we've got a lot of students that are out there, doing things. As far as like other things, it's like anything. I mean, acting represents society, and Shakespeare said something like, oh, the world's a stage, and we're merely just players.
Merely players, yeah.
So it's, we're in this room, we're all players, and we're all writing our own individual plays, and we decide whether we're in a comedy, which you don't want to be in that, and or a tragedy, and you don't want to be in that either, or you can be what I call, like, my life is like, I think is, a romantic adventure. It's fun, and there's romance, and I kind of make choices that kind of go in that direction. So the skills that you learn about being present and focusing on listening for understanding, are invaluable. Where you could be in a room with so many people, and who you are, through the art form, and it's about the art of knowing who you are. Makes a big difference in wherever you are. And corporations now are not just working for like Google and places like that. They're just not looking for people who punch buttons, because they got machines that do all that work now. So what they're looking for is they're looking for people that have creative skills, that come up with scenarios and stuff that will work for the games and, or whatever they're trying to build. So they're looking for people with imaginations, and these people can get paid, quite a bit of money for their imaginations, So, unfortunately, in a lot of like a lot of schools prior to college,
Oh, it's amazing, just the possibilities that are out there. And Professor Torres, I know later in the semester, as we get into April and May, there will be the performances. We'll look out for those and certainly promote them on future broadcasts of the President's Desk. Also want to say thank you to Mike and to Gigi for joining us today. Did you enjoy being on radio?
Yes, I did.
Excellent. Well, please come back sometime, and we look forward to that. So as we wrap up another edition of the President's Desk, we want to thank our Peralta TV audience as well as our listeners up and down this great state of California, from the far north as the 717 and the 530, or all the way down to SoCal and the 619. Big shout out there as always, but special appreciation to our great Laney and Peralta listeners right here in the 510, tuning in from Lake Merritt, Oakland, Chinatown, downtown Oakland, West Oakland, East Lake, Fruitvale, Diamond, North Oakland, Adams Point, Central Oakland, East Oakland, the Oakland Hills, Montclair, Piedmont, and of course, those right here at the Laney campus listening to us today in Oakland. As we close up shop on the President's Desk, straighten out our chairs and turn the desk light off on today's program, Felicia, great job as always. Take us home.
Absolutely. I must say this was a fantastic show. Really enjoyed the readings. I don't want to laugh. So.
Especially the second one.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for tuning in to the President's Desk, hosted by Laney College President Dr. Rudy Besikoff. It airs Wednesday at 2 a.m. and 2 p.m. on 96.9 KGPC. And viewers can watch the show in its entirety on Peralta TV Sundays from 1 to 2 p.m. To listen to the show anytime, find us on kgpc969.org/programming/current shows and click on the President's Desk, or find the show directly at www.kgpc969.org/the President's Desk. Also, to stream video of the show, go to youtube.com and subscribe to Laney College President's Desk. If you have a suggestion for a future show, please email us at laneypodcast@peralta.edu.